YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to Bananas Epic Gaming, and today in Bananas Epic Gaming we are back with another episode of CageTalk. And on this episode of CageTalk we're going to be ranking Marvel's Phase 3. So please be sure to like and subscribe, and here we go. And coming in the last place is going to be Captain Marvel. Now, Captain Marvel is easier to place than some of the others, because I wasn't really a fan of this movie. Captain Marvel is a 2019 film that was in between Infinity War and Endgame. And you gotta know who Carol Danvers is, who's Captain Marvel, because she's supposed to play this big part in Endgame, and she's hardly in Endgame. This is her origin movie, so we get to see her come to as a superhero with a young Nick Fury. We also find out that Nick Fury, how he got that eye injury. And this is the origins of Captain Marvel, like I said, and a powerful civilization known as the Kree. And we also meet the Skrulls, who she must confront. The Skrulls as shape-shifting aliens, and they come to Earth. All in all, Captain Marvel is one of the weaker entries for the MCU, Phase 3. And the Space Stone is in this movie. Hopefully the Marvels 2 is better, because I want to like this character, but I don't like this character that much. Now on to the next movie. Coming up next is going to be Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, Ant-Man and the Wasp is a superhero film that's set in the MCU. The movie follows Scott Lang as he teams up with Hope Van Dyne, who becomes a Wasp in this film. Set after the events of Captain America Civil War, Scott is now under house arrest for his involvement with the Avengers. However, he is drawn back into action when Hope and her father Hank Pym ask for help to rescue Hope's mother Janet from the quantum realm. Now, all in all, I thought this movie was a nice little addition. It was released in between Captain Marvel, Infinity War, and Endgame. So we knew the outcome, what was going to happen was somebody was going to get dusted. But the villain in this is Ghost. All in all, this is a decent MCU film. I personally like this one a little more, but not that much more than I like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now on to the next movie. Coming up next is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is the sequel to Guardians of the Galaxy, and it is supposed to be set a couple months, maybe no less than a year after the events of the first Guardians. And the main villain of this film is Ego. Ego is Peter's father. We see a little bit of his backstory, and we see how he came to the planet and met Peter's mother, and you know what happens from there. However, after meeting Ego, Peter learns his dark intentions, and his life is disregarded, leading to a conflict developed with the universe at stake. But we also have Yondu sacrificing his life to save Peter, because Peter was not his dad, but he wasn't really, but he was his dad. He was the dad that Peter has been looking for the entire time. All in all, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is a decent sequel. I like Part 3 better and Part 1 better. That's why this one is so lowly ranked. We also meet Mantis, and then we get Adam Warlock teased, and we wouldn't see Adam Warlock until Volume 3. Now on to the next movie. Coming up next will be Doctor Strange. So Doctor Strange is the next movie on the list. Doctor Strange is played by Benedict Cumberbatch, and this introduces the Time Stone. This is all about time, and it's Doctor Strange's origin story. He is a neurosurgeon who loses the use of his hands after a devastating car accident, and Desperate to regain his abilities, he embarks on a journey that leads him to the mystic arts. All in all, I'm not a fan of this one, but it's not the worst movie I've seen in the MCU. I like Doctor Strange 2 a little more because of the villain and American Chavez. But Doctor Strange 1 with Dormammu, who I believe will play a bigger part in a later movie for Doctor Strange, is a fun ride. You will not be disappointed. Now on to the next movie. Coming up next is going to be Spider-Man Far From Home. Spider-Man Far From Home is the epilogue of the Infinity Saga. Now let's get into it. Spider-Man Far From Home, I believe, is a good Spider-Man movie. Most people don't like this one. Spider-Man Far From Home is the epilogue of the Infinity Saga, and Iron Man's death, you can feel the ramifications throughout this movie because he died in Avengers Endgame. Spider-Man goes on vacation with his high school classmates. They go to Venice, and that's why he's far from home. Also, he's dealing with the ramifications of coming back because most people that he grew up with got dusted too. What are the odds of that? And the villain of this movie, most people have been waiting for this for a long time because the villain of Spider-Man Far From Home was going to be the original villain for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4, and that was Mysterio. Quentin Beck. Quentin Beck is a former Stark employee who wants to take revenge on Stark because he named his invention Barf, and so on and so forth. And the ending of this movie of Spider-Man getting his identity revealed, which will lead to the events of Spider-Man No Way Home, I believe were fantastic. Zendaya and Tom Holland do a fantastic job in this movie, and if you haven't seen this movie, it's worth a watch, in my opinion. Now on to the next movie. Coming up next is going to be Spider-Man Homecoming. This is Spider-Man's first Spider-Man movie inside of the MCU. Now let's get into it. Spider-Man Homecoming is Spider-Man's first solo adventure inside the MCU. Yes, he does have Iron Man here to back him up and support him, but this is the first Peter Parker movie for the MCU. I think they did a good job in this because this was a long time coming. When people heard that we were getting a Spider-Man movie for the MCU with Tom Holland, people were excited. And he has some pretty noticeable villains in this movie. He has the Prowler, who was teased, Shocker 1, Shocker 2, the Thinker, Scorpion, and the main villain was Vulture. Now, all of those people aside, he basically got his butt kicked, and he had his becoming a hero story. And Tom Holland does a fantastic job. Zendaya, we find out she plays MJ, Michelle Jones, not Mary Jane Watson. And we get Ned Leeds, who Ned becomes the Hobgoblin in the comics. And his teacher is a villain from the comics as well. I think it was his science teacher. It's been a while since I've seen it. Spider-Man Homecoming is a fun ride. If you haven't seen Spider-Man Homecoming because you say, oh, Andrew's my Spider-Man or Tobey's my Spider-Man, Tom Holland does a good job. Give it a chance. Now on to the next movie. Coming in fifth place is going to be Thor Ragnarok. Now, Thor Ragnarok is the next adventure of Thor Odinson, and we also get Bruce Banner. We find out basically what these two have been doing since Age of Ultron and why they were not in Captain America Civil War. They basically get put through the ringer because Thor goes against his sister Hela, or Hel, aka one of the better villains for the Thor series. Chris Hemsworth, again, does a fantastic job. Tom Hiddleston is back as Loki. He does a fantastic job. Mark Ruffalo absolutely killed it in this role like he always does. And the events of Thor Ragnarok tie into, of course, Avengers Infinity War, because the ending, we see Thanos arrive, and if you've seen Infinity War, which I'm pretty sure most of you have, the opening is Thanos and his army, children, decimating, killing the people of Asgard that are still on the ship. Because Asgard gets destroyed in this movie. Which leads to why they couldn't protect the giants who made the Infinity Gauntlet and made Mjolnir and made Stormbreaker. And why Thanos went after Thor, which we'll get into later. Coming in 4th place is gonna be Black Panther. Black Panther is arguably one of the most beloved superhero movies, and rightfully so. This movie was one of the better superhero movies that come out in the time that it did. And it still holds up to this day as one of the best Marvel movies, in my personal opinion. Killmonger is top 5 villain in the MCU. Chadwick Boseman does another fantastic job as T'Challa. He will be greatly missed. And the supporting cast is really, really fantastic as well. This universe of the MCU, they did a great job in this movie building Wakanda. And I remember when this movie came out, everybody loved it, and the Wakanda Forever symbol and pose, just overall fantastic, and it still holds up to this very day. If you've not seen Black Panther, do yourself a favor and go see it alone. Great cinematography, great storytelling, great music, great cast. Now on to the next movie. And coming in next is going to be Captain America 3, Captain America Civil War / Captain America presents Avengers 2.5. I call it Avengers 2.5 simply because this is a mini Avengers film, but it's a Captain America movie. This is also the first Captain America that we get introduced to Black Panther, who we just talked about, and Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, played by Tom Holland. He was introduced in this movie, and this is a movie with the Sokovia Accords coming, and them fighting over them doing other things right. This is a really good movie, from top to bottom. It's only missing Thor and Hulk, but everybody else appears or makes some type of cameo or appearance. It's been a while since I've seen this movie, and I'm not 100% sure if I remember Nick Fury was here, but I don't believe he was. This also leads to a big question about Secret Invasion, about a certain Avenger who's a Skrull, that he fell to his death, and he didn't bleed purple blood, and he didn't turn back into the Skrull, but he was bleeding red. So there's some retconning going on there in Phase 5 for this movie, but overall, Captain America with Zemo as the villain is fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and you will too. Give it a watch. It is arguably top 5 MCU movies of all time, in my personal opinion. Now on to the next movie. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached my top 2. Coming in 2nd place is Avengers Infinity War. Avengers Infinity War is arguably most people's favorite Avengers movie. It's either this one or Endgame. and we're going to be talking about Endgame later because that is obviously number one. But from top to bottom, the score, the feel of this movie, the Russo brothers did a fantastic job. Everybody that appears in this movie, except for Ant-Man and Hawkeye, because they are under house arrest because of the events of Civil War, they get their own time to shine. Wanda, who is played by Elizabeth Olsen, does a fantastic job. She was a key piece in this. The Guardians, them and Thor were hilarious together. Star-Lord, it's his fault that everything happened. And Doctor Strange making the sacrifice play to give up the stone because he knew what had to be done was brilliant, in my opinion. And Tony Stark and Captain America, this all could have been avoided, in my opinion, if they would have just communicated with each other and would have forgiven each other. But if that would have happened, Thanos probably would not have won. That's the big thing. Thanos won, and the heroes lost. He snapped, he got all 6 Infinity Stones, and he wiped out half of the human race. And surprisingly, the half that got wiped out were like the new heroes. Doctor Strange, Falcon, Spider-Man, Wanda, etc., etc. The original Avengers were like the lead core for Avengers Endgame, and I think that was the right call. Give them another movie to go out on, let them wrap their stories up. Now, in King Dynasty and Secret Wars, they can possibly do that again, but I'm pretty sure when that comes, we're gonna get a universe reset. But back to this movie. The most emotional part of this movie is Gamora dying to get the Soul Stone. Thanos killed his own daughter. And Tony and Pepper teasing the name of their kid, Morgan. And if you've seen the deleted scenes on who plays Morgan as an adult from Avengers Endgame, I'll talk about that a little later. Wow. All in all, Avengers Infinity War, it broke box office records for a reason, and it deserves to break all those records, in my opinion. This was the height of the MCU. Yes, the MCU has fallen down a little after Endgame and came back up during No Way Home. I'll talk about Phase 4 in the next video. But all in all, Avengers Infinity War will always be my top 5 because I love this movie. I went and saw it 2 times on opening day, and I saw it another 2 times before I left theaters, and that was money well spent because Captain America is one of my favorite Avengers. Spider-Man is, Tony Stark, and Wanda. That's my top 5. My 4 of my top 5: Captain America, Iron Man, Wanda, and Spider-Man. 4 of my top 5. And I would say the 5th one would be Thor. And all of them got time in this movie. They all shined in this movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. If you're going to do a marathon, it is worth it to push yourself to get to this point. Because binge watching the entire MCU like one of my friends did during the pandemic, she said her favorite ones that she has seen was Avengers Infinity War. Avengers Infinity War is arguably going to go down as one of the best superhero movies of all time. Now on to the next movie. Coming in next is going to be Avengers Endgame. And let's get into it. Avengers Endgame. This is arguably my personal favorite Avengers movie and my favorite MCU Marvel movie. Everybody that is left alive after the events of Infinity War gets time to shine. except for Captain Marvel, because she can't be brought in until the last minute, because she's overpowered at this point. And this movie picks up right after Infinity War. Tony is about to die because he's trapped in space, lost in space. Captain Marvel saves him, brings him back to Earth, and we learn that Pepper's alive. And a little bit jumping ahead, we find out that during the 5-year time jump, Logan Stark and the Avengers, after Tony collapses and says that Tony needed Steve, and that Steve's a liar because Steve says that we will always be there. The Avengers, the people that are left, as Tony is MIA, or on the shelf, so to speak, go to Thanos' and they kill him. After they find out that he destroys the stone, Thor cuts his head off. And then we get that time jump. 5 years later, Ant-Man gets pulled out of the quantum realm by a rat. Hits the eject button, basically. And time has ensues. We find out Tony as a kid, with Pepper, Banner, the Hulk modes into Smart Hulk, and they decide to do the time heist. And Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, is the one that says, before you're the 3 stones in New York, and they split up into teams. New York team goes after the Time Stone, Time Stone, Space Stone, and Mind Stone. And then the Space team goes after the Soul Stone, Power Stone, and Thor and Rocket go after the Reality Stone. Some little chaos ensues. Loki from 2012 escapes, and that's the Loki that we have in Loki the series and the MCU now. Cap and Tony go back to the day that Tony is birthed to get the Space Stone and the Morphin particles. And the person that has to sacrifice themselves are either Black Widow or Hawkeye. And they fight each other in Vormir to say, I'm going to be the one to sacrifice myself because I love you enough to let you live. And we don't know who dies. Sadly, it is Black Widow. And they all come back, they realize Black Widow died, and they said that we have to make this work, it has to work, because she was dead for nothing. Thor wants to do the snap, because he has cosmic energy, but Hulk is the one that does the snap, and he snaps his fingers, tries to bring Black Widow back in the process, but he ends up bringing everybody back but her. And while Nebula and Rhodey, who were getting the Power Stone, after they got the Power Stone, Nebula got abducted by 2012 Thanos. And Pask and Mora and Nebula are there. And the evil Nebula comes back, and she lets Thanos in. And that's how Thanos gets back to the year that we're in. And the original 3, Thor, Cap, Iron Man, they hold down the line until some help comes. Cap picks up Mjolnir. Iron Man gets his butt beat a little. Cap is the last man standing. There is a beautiful shot of Captain America being the only guy in the army of Thanos. And then you hear Cap, can you hear me? On your left, and then we hear that beautiful music, and then everybody comes back, and then we finally hear Avengers assemble. In my opinion, that was fantastic. That is one of my favorite superhero movie scenes ever, so far. I think that they will top it in Secret Wars. And now everybody's fighting Thanos' army against the Avengers. And Doctor Strange says, if I tell you what happens, it won't happen. Then he, near the end, he throws up a 1, because this is R1 chance in 14,605,000. And Tony Stark knows that he has to die. He has to be the one to put him away. Thanos dispatches Captain America, Thor, and Miss Captain Marvel. And just as he pushes Iron Man away, he says, "I am inevitable." Snaps his fingers, turns the glove around, they're gone, and Tony's taking all 6 stones. And he says, "I am Iron Man." Snap. Tony sacrificed his life to get rid of everybody, get rid of all of Thanos' army. And Thanos is the last one to fade away, and then Tony dies. And at that time, we didn't know that this is going to be the last time that we see Black Panther 2. But Tony dies, he gets a funeral, he gets a send-off, and Captain America goes back in time to take the stones back, because you gotta take them back so you don't create a paradox. And he says in the past, an old man Cap comes, and he passes down his shield to Sam, and the last shot we see is Cap getting his happy ending with Peggy. That is arguably one of my favorite scenes and story arcs is Captain America. And some people believe that Stan Lee, he was Captain America, he was old man Cap the entire time, because we always saw him in every single Avengers movie. He was Captain America. He was living through both timelines. Because Captain America going back, he turned out to be Stan Lee. That's what most people believe. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is gonna do it for Marvel Ranking Phase 3. Keep in mind, we're going to do 4, 5, and 6, and do a big ranking after all of that. These are coming out after the SAG-AFTRA strike is over. And my opinion won't change on these movies. I love the MCU. I will always love the MCU movies. I think that they are perfect. Some more than others, some are absolutely without a shadow of a doubt amazing. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Tap that little bell on my YouTube app so you guys never miss an upload. And I'm doing a giveaway at 500 subscribers. The only way to be involved in my giveaway is to hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching. Take care.